Calling to order the combined meeting for Diamond Lake School District 76 for Tuesday, July 17th. Roll call, please.
Bordeaux?
Here.
Hale?
Here.
Altman? Here. Kessler? Here. Candela? Walker? Yaffe?
Here. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, we open the floor for any comments on our agenda items. Do we have any comments on our agenda items? Having no comments, we'll move to our presentations.
We have our facility update, and I apologize, it was just added today, so it will be shared with the public right after this meeting. But we have our representatives from White, Mr. Dave Ganson, and he's coming from Pepper, and they're going to give you a status update of where we are right now, and then next steps as we plan for future projects. So take it away, Ms. Cynthia.
Where would you like us to stand?
Right
in the
middle.
Yeah, right in the center.
Okay.
We're going to do a circle dance.
Here, come on over.
This works.
All right.
Maybe a
So,
shot.
it's just a real quick update on where we're at right now in the process of open construction this summer and our planning for 2019. So, you look at the next slide. So just a recap of the work that's going on at West Oak School and Diamond Lake School this summer. At West Oak, we have toilet room renovations, the floor replacement of the small gymnasium, which is following up on the work that had been done last summer at that school, or in that room. And then the remaining corridor improvements, again, as a follow-up on the work that was done last summer. Diamond Lake School, also toilet room renovations. Between those two schools, that represents all the group toilet room spaces in both buildings. Our gymnasium improvements, that's a significant amount of work to clean up the existing gymnasium, boiler replacements, and roof replacement, which is actually a project that's being handled directly by the district. To that, I will hand the floor over to Kurt.
So just a couple of pictures here. The roof replacement is going very well despite all the rain we had early on in the project. They are about 80% complete, and they're going to be finishing up the week of August 6th. So basically what these pictures show you is the picture all the way on the right, there's two things going on there. One is the insulation is being loaded, but those white cylinder looking things, that was actually like a vacuum that sucked all the rocks off the roof. That wasn't noisy at all when that was going on. So this new roof, they put down a new membrane, and then they put that, it's about 4-inch thick insulation. I'm not quite sure how thick it is, but those are those white squares you see. So there's probably, I think it was like 10 or 20 on that stack. They put those down, they put a new membrane over, and you're done. And hopefully no more leaks. So that's where we're at.
So does that mean total regrowth over that building? Are all parts covered?
If you go back, a slide, Eric. It's everything except for there's one spot. Actually, no, I take it back. It is a complete roof. There's two roofs over the 4th grade wing. There's a peak roof there, and then there's a flat surface. So then when we first started the project, I was a little unclear myself on how that was, but they ripped all that off and replaced it. So yes, I'm almost positive it's 100% full roof.
And the roof here is how much? We don't know how much on this roof.
This summer, nothing.
And eventually, though, is the roof here in the list?
We have patchwork. Yeah, we have partial. It's not complete tear off, but there's partial work being done.
Okay.
Here's some pictures. I was going to mention at some point along here too, if the board would like to take a tour, I would gladly love to give you a tour of these spaces. But you can kind of see progression here with the walls down, chase wall, half the chase wall down, and all the plumbing rough in. Then you can see the next couple pictures there. In the far right-hand picture, actually the floor tile's in as well, but you see paper covering it up to keep it protected. But you can see the new wall tile, the accent tile, the hand dryers, and the semblance of the ceiling starting, but you can kind of see from rough-in to what the finishes are starting to look like in all the bathrooms across both buildings. We're gonna start to turn over bathrooms in a little over a week, honestly. So we're gonna roll them over to the school, but we're starting to complete some of the areas. Next is the gym and the corridor flooring. So you can see they actually laid out some of the sheet goods. They have to then go and weld in the seams. But I think they maybe accomplished that now, but that's in the little gym here. And then these two pictures show the corridor flooring. In the far right, you can see we have to do a sandblasting process before we prep. So we're prepping. We're about to start laying down floors similar to the same flooring that we did here last summer in the corridors, in the rest of the corridors in the building.
I have a question about the flooring. So, and this would be true for ceiling too. Over time, 5, 8, 10 years from now, if there's buckling or damage, do we have a lot of stock that can be put in, or how do we make sure that we can keep it alive down the road? Or keep
You want to comment on that, or I can? There is, when you purchase the contract through the subcontractor, you do purchase what we call attic stock, which is extra materials. It's normally a percentage, 2%, 5% of what was installed, which is generally all that is needed for that period of time that you're talking about for patching in the next 5 years. Usually the amount that we give. I walk into schools all the time and see rooms full of stuff because you are only going to need, pieces here and there. Now, if it's a large area that for some reason was damaged, it would be a different lot, but these floors are, they should be. Now, if it's a large area that for some reason was damaged, it would be a different lot, but these floors are, they should be made for some time now, 20 years from now, maybe not. But with regards to just, patching onesie twosie stuff, couple tiles get damaged, that attic stock that gets turned over to the building should be enough to handle that kind of patching.
And what is the material in the hallway?
This is LVT, luxury vinyl tile. I believe that's what this is as well. And then the ceilings are similar. It's an acoustic ceiling tile. I'm not on that page anymore, but they're similar to what you have here. Large gym over at Diamond Lake. You can see the floorings up in this picture. You can see we did some of the painting. You see the blue and purple accents. You can also see just some of the ductwork in this picture, in the far right picture. The new ductwork. The new windows are in, kind of being blocked by our scaffolding. That's helping us get the work to put the shades, the motorized shades in. You can also see that the logos are gone off the paint is off of the brick. So yes, and that wall as well. All those big covers are gone. The pipe's gone from underneath there, just left with some low voltage, minimal amount of conduit as possible. Boiler replacement. These two blue ones you see here on the left are the first floor boilers, and these are the ones these two are the cast iron boilers are down in the lower level. They're just finishing up that work, finishing up piping, doing testing and training and all that kind of stuff next. But as you can see, they're much smaller and more compact than what was previously. If you've had the pleasure of being in those spaces, it's a much cleaner than it was before.
All right, so for the design work for 2019, we are in the middle of trying to finalize the scope for that work. So the intent is that by the end of this month, or certainly by early August, that we have a pretty set list of projects that we intend to move forward with. During that time and through into September, we'll be developing those concepts and trying to develop some pricing to ensure that we stay on budget for those. And then ultimately get approval to proceed on those so that in the fall we can do construction documents and get the project out to bid by the end of the year. The other issue that's kind of independent of that, that we just want to raise for continued discussion is what happens at Fairhaven, because that will have some kind of impact on ultimately funding availability and things like that for these projects that we need to make a determination on.
Do we have a goal for an analysis on that timing?
As far as what to do with Fairhaven, I'd like, we have those 3 options, so we can present those to you at next month, and then we'd like to have a decision by early fall from all of you as far as once you see those numbers.
Oh, you have fleshed the Fairhaven numbers
Well, just those
out.
3 options. So we had to demo it, to sell it, or to mothball it. So we kind of came up with tentative numbers. We can share those out with you again and make sure that they're concrete and final and current, and then you all have a discussion about it and hopefully get action by September. Because that will be in the budget numbers for our summer 2019 projects. Do you have any other questions for Dave, Lisa, or any of us?
I have a question. I know last summer we put in some air conditioning units. Has that been expanded at all?
So the plan for that is when, so nothing additional for this year at Diamond Lake, with the exception of June. So the units that are currently over at Fairhaven, over at Shep Fairhaven down, we'll bring those 10 over to Diamond Lake and then finish the balance of the building.
Okay.
Similar units. Off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you how many units that will be to add on.
10.
But it falls 10 at Fairhaven, and then that'll make 18 total, and then whatever the balance is.
Okay.
Finish that up.
Anything else?
So tying this to the budget conversation we'll have later, what, did we make a certain number of assumptions about the 2019 expenses in order to do the budget?
Well, this is all our, so this is, right now, we're just using referendum dollars. So we will have a certain amount, we'll have approximately, when we're done with these projects from last summer and this summer, we have approximately $6.5 million, $6,300,000 left. We'll use that money first for the projects, and then in our local dollars, we have allocated money for facility improvements. So that'll be, it's a separate pot of money.
Okay, so when we talk about the budget for the other discussion today, we're talking about the operating budget separate from.
Correct.
From this.
From the referendum budget, yeah.
Okay, helpful, all right. Well, the last time we discussed this, we were just really complimentary that it all seems to be being done so professionally and cleanly and neatly and per plan, so.
That's good to hear.
That's what we discussed when you guys were here last time, so. That's
Good.
excellent.
Good to hear.
Thank you for the
Appreciate
partnership.
it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, now we will go to our business agenda. Business agenda items have been discussed or will be discussed today. And it looks like most of them are for action. The first item is the omnibus vote agenda. Items under the omnibus vote agenda are considered routine and or not controversial and will be approved by one motion. If anyone board member, staff, administrator, or citizen wishes to have a separate vote on any items, that item will be placed on the omnibus vote agenda and voted on separately. Be resolved that Lake Services Board of Education accepts and approves the omnibus vote agenda items A through E as listed. Do we have questions and comments on this item? I had a question about expenses, and I'll just throw it out there, knowing that
I can try
that
to.
Eric, yeah, that Eric can give an answer later. I just was confused by what we were looking at on the expenditures. Well, first of all, on the revenues, it says we're 100% of the date, so we are looking at everything for the fiscal year that has just ended in June.
Yes.
And so the revenues seem to make sense. I just was not clear as to why our working cash is zeroed out in terms of expenditures. And the expenses in general are like 60-some%.
Slide 3 was the one I had trouble with.
Let me make sure. Are you guys looking at? I'm looking at it at this view. So is it the monthly financial graphs? So third attachment.
It would be not the thing. It looks like the second attachment. Yes,
Yeah.
this one. So to wrap up the year, this expenses number just looks somewhat suspicious. And
Because they're less.
then two pages later, there's just no data for working cash, and capital projects, it looks like, has been maybe pulled out. I can understand why from a referendum perspective, we might have done something like that. But anyway, this just, the data is not.
Let me ask Eric about that. You're right, because there's no data under working cash or fire safety. that what you're saying?
Right, and it's just off so much that you wouldn't expect at the end of the year to see this much, the variance across the expenses on these two charts. Right? Don, that's
Oh,
what you're-
absolutely, yeah, and slide 13 didn't make any sense to me at all. So if you're looking at the dollars, we would have spent slightly more than 17, but it looks like it's only 60% of spend, which I imagine is just either awkwardness in how it's being presented or something's not adding up.
Well, Eric shared with me, and I want to make sure I'm accurately representing is that we did receive, because the state passed the budget, we did receive all of our grant dollars and all of our property taxes. So it may seem that we have a lot more in our surplus, but it still doesn't answer your question why there's no expenses. So let me ask him that part of it, the slide 13.
Yeah,
If you go to slide 14, you can see the graph depicting the working cash.
yeah.
Summary of those numbers are just
Something's
missing.
just,
Well, and then there's a piece,
Like if it's missing.
something's not picking up maybe in the spreadsheets behind
Okay.
these.
yeah,
And at the end of the year, we would expect that it's not just a timing thing to our expenses. So whatever, it just isn't, it's not computing.
Okay.
And these, I think, are part of the omnibus vote agenda, correct? They would fit under,
Well, you are approving,
it's the treasurer's report.
right, you're approving in the bills.
Yeah, so I think we should take the treasurer's report out for our omnibus vote agenda there, so that that can be addressed. Okay. Did anyone else have any other questions or comments on any portion here of the omnibus vote agenda? So, well, the $1 million check to Pepper Construction is kind of throwing this.
It's definitely a Pac-Man chart.
Yeah, that might be one where we want to show the chart of pulling that unusual, that unusual expense
An
out.
asterisk, that should be an asterisk.
Okay, so anything else for the omnibus vote agenda? All right, then. Be it resolved, Diamond Lake 76 Board of Education accepts and approves the omnibus vote agenda, items A through E with the exception of C as listed. May we have a motion to approve?
Actually, sorry, I just did this to you, I apologize.
Uh-huh.
Can we revisit the wording on B? Because if I recall that correctly, there's a request to actually not approve that, or we're saying we're approving it. Are we approving the not approval, or are we? Because I think with the pricing we're saying is 3-year, we're being asked to go back to a 1 year. And
we're not approving that now.
That's
You jumped one
the,
ahead of us.
We're just doing item
Just
A.
doing it.
well, she said A through E, that's what threw me off.
so
But
we're
it's
on,
on it's on item.
Oh, thank
it's
you.
within
Okay,
the
I'm so
item.
sorry. I messed this up. Keep
So
going.
it's item A sub point
I'm like, I didn't think, okay, I didn't think, I know, why are we doing this?
Fair. No, you are correct about that future item here. So back to the omnibus vote agenda, which is item A. On the table is resolved that the Board of Education accepts and approves the omnibus vote agenda items A, B, D, and E as listed. May we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Bordeaux,
Yes.
Hale,
Yes.
Hoffman,
Yes.
Castler, yes. Candela,
Yes.
Walker, Yaffe.
Yes. So just as a follow-up, omnibus vote agenda item C, the acceptance of the treasurer's report, we are tabling for follow-up. All right, now we are moving on to item B. Was this the one we were just talking about?
Yes.
As the recommendation is not to accept this one. So it reads, be it resolved, the Diamond Lake School District 76 Board of Education approves the recommendation to extend the contract with Durham School Service for regular and special education transportation for the 2018-19 school year. So, questions, comments?
I was going to just remind everybody, so if you recall, we went on bid for a 3-year, we partnered with District 75 and 120. the bids came back extremely high from Durham, almost a 30% increase, and no one else bid. So what 75, 120, and we did was just extend our contract for 1 year. The other vendors, the other transportation providers said, if you include this and maybe if you separate, and kind of gave us some direction on how to rephrase the bid. And we're going to rewrite the bid and go out to bid earlier, so probably late fall, and then we'll put it out again, and then hopefully attract some other bidders and possibly also separate from 120 and 75.
Wait a minute, who are we getting suggestions from on how to rephrase
Like,
it?
for example, First Student, that was one of our bidders, but they didn't bid on this because they said it just didn't make sense for them the way we had it written.
The perspective.
Prospective vendors, right?
And why who was the interest in separating from the other districts, just because of the scope of it then?
Yes, we're just finding bus drivers, you know what I mean, and just the different schedules and just since how large it is and just the amount of square mileage. That's not the right word, but you know what I'm talking about, like the size of our district, basically. So they said if you separate, you might be able to get more competitive bids.
Well, did we take into consideration that there will be different bus routes? Oh, so do we think that that's an impact? Well, if you're only going to do 2 schools instead of 3, but you're still running 3 schools, and it's, yeah.
Yeah, it might, you know, I mean, like, for example,
Might be less buses, but longer duration.
right, like, for example, some families from Diamond Lake, that you could just walk over to Diamond Lake will now be bused over here. So we might be adding more routes. Does that make sense?
Does anyone walk to that?
But you have people that, I'm sorry, I meant here.
The one, gotcha,
Right,
that makes sense.
that
Yes.
people that would walk, the kids that would walk here. Am I saying that correctly?
Or they would walk to Fairhaven or being bused kind of thing.
Yes, or even, but like, there was a family that came, that was sharing, yes, that's what it was. There was a family who was expressing that they live right over here,
Yeah.
but they would drive to, or get a ride over the bus to Diamond Lake, but if they're a 4th grader here, they're gonna have to walk.
Gotcha.
So that
Okay,
may
that makes sense.
change it.
Okay, so last meeting, we voted no to accept the bids.
The 3-year bid.
So we did that no
Yes.
vote. This one is the instead of 1-year extension, so we want to vote for this one, which is important.
I'm good with that. I guess what I'm struggling with, maybe it's because I'm slow, is it, is the extension the same price, but for 1 year? Or is the
No.
extension for the prices we see here?
Prices that you see here.
Okay, that's what was confusing me, is I thought what we were looking at is the 3-year
No,
price just for the next year.
yes.
I thought it was, gotcha. Okay. So we're still gonna take a 24% increase just for
Correct.
1 year? Gotcha.
And
Which I guess is still considerably less than what they originally
that
were.
is 30.
Yes.
So I found some of the terms on the new addendum a little interesting, like the current camera systems will remain with no guarantees of reliability.
Yeah, that's a really weird one, isn't it? There's a couple of them in here that are.
That's
Really-
true.
It's really great quality.
Yeah. So did they negotiate that with the collective 3 schools who did this? Is that what their terms for coming back for another year?
We all have a very similar contract. I can go detail by detail, but yes, they do the exact same for all 3 districts.
Okay. All right. Well, okay, I have a question. Under this amendment, I mean, this doesn't look at all to be in our favor.
Anywhere.
Right. So my question is, number 3 says no penalties, the liquidated damages will be assessed by the school district. So do we have any recourse with them? So if their performance continues to be as poor as it was past 3 years?
The only thing that we have and that we've held them accountable is if they're late. You know what I mean? So like, that is the only thing that they will, quote unquote, not charge us for. We can document that they were more than 15 minutes, I believe is the number, late, picking up or dropping off. Then if we keep track of that and have documentation, then that's where we can get dollars back. And I think this seems to be what we found out, through Eric, just working with the other contractors, is this is just transportation. Like, there's such few companies that do this, and this is the quality of service, unfortunately, that we get from, it's like a universal problem, regardless of company. Okay. And we feel the same way that you do, trust us.
Well, and looking forward, there are benefits to doing this with the other two schools or school districts. But what would be the benefits of going on our own? You said it's a possibility we may try to negotiate independently as opposed to as a 3-district.
Some of them were that, okay, we can guarantee you 20 drivers, but we can't guarantee you 60. If we have all of the drivers there, we can provide you the on-time service if we're not sharing routes or sharing buses with the high school, for example.
So it stands to reason we would probably have higher expense, but maybe some better terms.
Or maybe better service, we don't know. And then we're all in the same boat. I mean, it is universal that 75 and 120 have the exact same problems. Some of them even more, especially with high school.
Okay, any other questions or comments? I don't remember. Be resolved, the Diamond Lake School District 76 Board of Education approves the recommendation to extend the contract with Durham School Service for regular and special education transportation for the 2018-19 school year. May we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Kessler, yes. Yaffe?
Yes.
Bordeaux?
Yes.
Hill?
No.
Halpin?
Yes.
Candela?
Yes.
Walker?
All right, the next item up has to do with the tentative budget and the setting the budget hearing date. Whereas the school code 105-517-1 directs the board to provide at least one public hearing prior to final action on the budget, and whereas notice of the public hearing must be published in a local newspaper at least 30 days prior to the timing of the hearing, therefore be resolved, the Diamond Lake School District Board of Education approves the 2018-19 tentative budget as presented and sets September 18, 2018 at 7 p.m. as the date for a public hearing on the 2018-19 budget. Comments and questions on this item?
So if I can just add, per Eric's memo, you're not approving the budget tonight. He's going to do a formal presentation at our next meeting. What this is doing is just approving the tentative budget and allowing you to post so that we can post it for 30 days and then have the hearing and approval of September 18th.
Yeah, there was a lot of information in here.
Right.
I had a question on it that I thought.
And what I'd like to do, if it's okay, is have, at the August 7th meeting, which I believe is our next meeting, the August 7th meeting, go through his presentation, answer any questions. All this is doing is just allowing you to set the hearing date and approving the information here, not approving the budget.
But did you want to know what questions?
Sure,
you might have
absolutely.
So that
Yep.
he can answer them?
Mm-hmm.
I am looking at, what is this I'm looking at? The projection charts. Called 5-year projection, yes. And I just wondered what the plan will be when it comes to the third page down, transportation fund. The
The one that's gonna be, look like the fund.
Yeah, although it's less so in fiscal year 22, and I'm not sure why. But yeah, that one is curious that the fund balance is really going to drop because we have higher expenditures and revenues for transportation fund. And my question for him will just be, what's the plan here? Do we start to divert other funds here, or what? How will we approach this challenge? It looks like the IMRF on the following page has a similar drop off, but does kind of flatten there, so that may or may not require the same answer. concern. And then another question I had about the basic assumptions is, we did an enrollment study a number of years ago. We paid for one, and at that time, they estimated flat enrollment. Just so thinking from you guys in terms of when should we go back and do a reanalysis? What timing or triggers should have us do another enrollment analysis?
How far out did the last?
At least 10 years, maybe more, maybe 20. I think the key takeaway from the enrollment study was essentially that there are very limited spaces where they can build housing.
Right.
And so because of that, even if you developed all of those spaces, a lot of the proposed spaces would not necessarily even cater to people with children. And if it was, it would be minimal children. So it wasn't, if it went up, you're not even talking about going up by like a percentage. It was, a couple of kids here and there. And I don't know that that necessarily is going to change unless we just see kind of like a generational turnover in places. Yeah, our risk didn't seem very high, that it would go either direction. It was slightly declining, but it was kind of like flattening out. It wasn't like a substantial drop off either, which is what we've seen.
My understanding is that we're sort of tapped out in
Yes.
terms of population, so we're not too worried about
No, that's exactly what the
Yeah,
study
student
showed.
population, those numbers show a growth of less than 20 through 2021 and 2022.
Also, it would be interesting for us to get a sense of how accurate our forecasting is. If Eric can help us understand that during his tenure, what he's forecasted the last couple of years and what the actual was, and what we're learning about those variables
So
that are helping him forecast.
are you thinking like going back to, I'm looking at your screen right now. That's not what you're referring to.
So what I'm looking at, by the way, I'm looking at the page that has all of the actuals followed by projections going into the future. Before most of the people here got here, we were off by $1 million in projected 1 year. It was not that long ago, but still. And so Eric, we brought on a new business manager. He's now done this a couple of times, and it would be helpful to see what these numbers before they were became actuals, what kind of projections he had compared to what we actually saw. And we know, based on things he tells us in the materials, that he is having a conservative approach to projections. But how much on or off that is, I don't see from the data we have, the way it's presented.
How far do you want to go back? 3 years?
Just as long as he's been here.
Okay.
Any other thoughts or questions about the budget? Or follow up when Eric is here next meeting. So at this time, what we are being asked to do is to accept this material as the tentative budget so that it can get posted and set the date. So as I know this one already. It says, therefore be it resolved, Avonlea School District approves the 2018-19 tentative budget as presented and sets September 18th, 2018 at 7 as the date for the public hearing on the 2018-19 budget. May we have a motion to approve? So moved.
Second.
Hale,
Yes.
Bordeaux,
Yes.
Altman,
yes.
Castler, yes. Candela,
Yes.
Walker, Yaffe.
Yes. Next up, the resolution to approve lease agreement with Image Tech
Be it resolved that Diamond Lake School District 76 Board of Education approves the recommendation to enter into a 60-month lease with an Image Tech at a monthly cost of $3,497.93. Comments and questions on this item? I had a question that I didn't quite understand. It was, included in the lease is a buyout of our current Toshiba copiers. Does that mean we're buying out of the lease, or are we actually going to own the copiers?
Well, the lease would be, they'll buy out our existing lease. So our lease right now is ending, except for one item, and they're gonna buy out that lease. So we'll essentially own all copiers, our current copiers we have right now. Majority of them are, will be out of pretty much service, but we have another resource that we could sell our old copiers to get revenue out of our existing ones.
So we can recoup a little bit of them. It sounds like the reliability has been,
Yeah.
so we're not gonna keep using them?
No.
And, okay.
No. And with the new copiers, they're being managed a lot. They'll have better management and reliability.
And new fancy tech features,
Oh, yeah.
but still the majority in black and white.
Yes, there's a lot of black and white. There's only a few colors that are going to be in district, and the benefit is that utilizing paper cut management system, you could actually determine how many colors or color or even black and white is being used, and even beneficial with our badge scanning. We could do you can do job releases for your badge, so you're not just sending print jobs and you get it piling up. You can send a print and it'll go to any printer, and then whichever printer you're close to, you can release your print job just like that. So it's secure.
That's nice.
Is 60 months typical for that?
I want to say it's typical. I'd say Eric, Mr. Rogers would be the answer a little better than me, but I think that 60 months seems about pretty typical.
I want to say we're in a current 3-year
Mm-hmm.
lease with our current system.
Has the reliability always been bad?
I mean, with machines over time with copiers, I know that when you get towards your last year or so, that tends to happen. Copiers break down. I think the beneficial of having a lot more managed devices like this is that people are not sending a tremendous amount of jobs to them, and then, and not picking them up, so that the amount of wear and tear that does happen. So this should help that process or the longevity.
So does this mean then that we are marrying machines for 5 years, so that 4 years from now, we're gonna have tired old machines? Or they just, it's the specific machine, so we're not contracting with Image Tech to keep us fresh machines, right?
No, I mean, they're going to be servicing the machines as well. So if any of the machines does break down, they're all of them are going to be under copier contracts for servicing, just like we have right now, especially with toner. The benefit here is that if any machine did went down, you're not sending it to one printer. It's going to all printers. So you can go to any printer within the building, release your job.
And in the contract, are they accountable for making sure that we have a replacement printer if any
Yes.
of them becomes defunct for some
Yes.
reason?
Yes.
Okay. All right, any other questions on this one? May we have a motion to approve? So moved.
Second. Hale,
Yes.
I'll take it. Castler, yes. Bordeaux
Yes.
and Hauptman,
Yes.
Candela,
Yes.
Walker, Yaffe.
Yes. The next item, meal rates. Be it resolved, Diamond Lake School District 76 Board of Education approves the following meal rates for the 2018-19 school year. Breakfast, $1.35 for full price and 30 cents reduced price. Lunch, $2.90 full price, 40 cents reduced price, and milk, 30 cents. Comments and questions? May we have a motion to approve? So moved.
Second?
Hale,
Yes.
Hauptman,
Yes.
Bordeaux,
Yes.
Castler, yes. Candela,
Yes.
Walker, Gaffey.
Yes. The next items are personnel related. Be it resolved that Diamond Lake 76 Board of Education accepts and approves the personnel items as depicted on the agenda. This includes 3 new hires, 1 resignation, and 1 termination. Comments or questions on these items? Do we have a motion to approve? So moved.
Second. Hale,
Yes.
Kessler, yes. Bordeaux,
Yes.
Altman,
Yes.
Candela,
Yes.
Walker, Gaffey.
Yes. That concludes our business agenda. Next item up is board discussion. First thing is the staff turnover list.
So this is just a follow-up to Mr. Heltman's question from the last meeting. I shared it with you in a previous board email, but just if you wanted to.
Oh, I appreciate that. It looks like it's about the same,
It's
it's
about the
pretty
same.
stable.
Yep, it's about the same, but I was looking at probably the year that we started, so there was 15, but fiscal year 15, and we started out with 20. And it has declined a little bit, but even just this past month, as you guys knew from, the June board meeting, we had 6 people resign due to personal reasons, so I do feel like those are good signs, and we are meeting with people or talking to them as they leave. So if there are things that we need to do, if they're leaving because of culture or climate reasons, we know and we want to address them right away. But if they're leaving for personal reasons or, to be closer to home or, spouse relocation or things like that, that's kind of what we're seeing more of, our personal reasons. And this also includes all learning associates as well as certified staff. So it's non-certified is included in the number 2.
And we've already gone through non-renewals early on, so now that's basically taken care of.
Right. And we didn't have any this year.
Yeah.
So looking at this year, no non-renewals.
All right, next up is the information about the board terms. This is something we kind of have a sense of, but we were asking to verify which seats were 4-year terms, which seats were 2-year terms, et cetera. And as a reminder, we have 6 positions that will be open in the election coming up.
I didn't realize it was 6. I didn't think, 2 years. That's surprising.
Yes, so we want to continue to find ways to remind the public that we have openings coming up and encourage people to participate, and we'll want to remind them when the deadline is for filing with the county. I think that whatever information we have.
Right, I was thinking maybe right in our back to school information, we can definitely put that out there and reach out to people personally too, for people who applied last time. Otherwise, it's just gonna be me and John.
Okay, so moving on then from, unless anyone has any other board topics. About this time of year, we start to hear about the conference. So I'm imagining we'll hear about that as the beginning of school starts.
Are you talking about Triple I?
Yes.
You got anything, Daisy?
Just what we sent back for your presentation, but
No registration, right?
not yet.
Okay, so we'll look into that and see.
What'd you say?
So they're not shy about sending emails. So.
We'll look into that though.
Yeah.
Usually, right, usually starts coming.
Right. And, I don't know if you shared yet, but have you shared with the board? Okay, so as a reminder, I wasn't here when she did, but Bob has submitted something for us as to be a presenter. So we'll be there.
And you're presenting on climate and culture, is that correct?
Yes, and board relationship.
and board relationship.
Yes, so as on our way that direction, we'll get input and have you guys respond and help us tell the story. Okay, freedom of information requests, we have none. Notice and communications. You'll see that there's an article in our material that was highlighted. Any discussion about that or other notice and communications?
Is that property in our district? Is that?
Yeah.
Yes.
So how does that impact us financially?
I don't have that information, if I can find out. But they're turning it into a park.
Not revenue generating.
Right.
So we will use that one. Okay, so you'll pursue that one.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, really, all the other buildings would be in 75. Well, there you go.
Yeah. We don't know yet, so. All right, so now we would open up the floor for any public comments on other items. Having no public here, we'll go on to others. Any others? Anyone?
I have a few, or two, I have two. So you all received Mr. Rogers' memo, and I think he wrote that before Sunday. So he had a baby girl on Sunday. She was born right on her due date. And I asked him how he was doing today, and he said, I'm very tired.
Tell me just like, God.
Right. What did I tell you? I told you to get some sleep.
How's mom and baby?
Mom and baby, everybody's healthy, and her name is Blake.
Cute.
Yes.
It's his first one.
And the second piece of good news is that Mr. Jirach completed or successfully defended his dissertation and completed his doctorate program, so he is now Dr.
That's wonderful.
Yes, so we have some good news, lots of blessings in the district this past week.
Wonderful. All right. Going once, going twice on others. At this time, the board will adjourn into executive session for the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the district or legal counsel for the district, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee or against legal counsel for the district to determine its validity. May we have a motion to adjourn into executive session?
All in favor? I didn't catch who said the first and second thing. Was that Joy?
No, Dave.
Dave? And, okay, so, then who was second on it?
I don't know that anyone seconded it.
Oh, I'll second it.
There you go.
Candela?
Yes.
I'll say yes. Castler, yes. Bordeaux?
Yes.
Hale?
Yes.
Hauptman?
Yes.
Walker? Yeffy?
Yes.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.